What's up, y'all? This is Henny. Listen, 5 minutes, mobile music mixing tips coming right up using BEATMAKER 3. Let's go right now. Let's go.
The business.
First things first, you got to understand, audio mixing is about balance and it's about separation. You got to think of your audio mix as a sphere, right? Not a circle. Let's get into it using BEATMAKER 3. When I start mixing, I always start with the drums. I love Fact Transient Designer because it gives me a nice little punch on my drums. Of course, it's called Punch on Drums. Works every single time for me. I always give my drums light compression, not heavy compression because they're already digital. So I use Mixbox CS from IK Multimedia and I love using their white 2A, giving it a little peak reduction so it never goes past 1.5, 2, and then boosting that output will usually give you really great results with their white 2A. My drums and my bass are always centered. When mixing my live bass or even a synth bass, I usually take out a lot of that super low end so it doesn't compete with the drums. Usually around 80 hertz I take away so you make sure that you can get the drums to sit well with the bass. A great way to add a little dirt, grit, and seasoning to any sound that you have, you can use a saturator. I love BEATMAKER 3, it already comes with a saturator, and this is what I put on a lot of my sounds. I always filter out the low end frequencies of any sound that doesn't need it so that I don't muddy up my drums and my bass area. I have to make sure my drums and my bass sit right, and then everything else sprinkles around that. After my drums and my bass are sitting right, I start bringing in my hi-hats and my percussions, and I pan. Panning makes sure you add separation to the mix. Regardless if you have a hi-hat, an open hat, multiple hi-hats, you want to space them out to make sure that they have their own space in the mix. To add more depth to any sound, you can add reverb. So I'll usually add a little reverb to push that sound further away from the front of the mix. Like I said, sphere, not circle. When it comes to a pad, a piano, guitars, anything that has stereo sound to it, I love using a widener. Whether I use the Haze plugin from Clevgrand or use the stereo widener from BEATMAKER 3, I'm usually able to get a nice wide sound to push that separation and make sure that my sounds do not compete and muddy up that center area where my drums and my bass are going to always be. Another plugin that I love to use that's included in BEATMAKER 3 is AutoPan. AutoPan sways a sound from left to right depending on how fast or slow that you want it to pan. So I love to use this on Rhodes, on sound effects, different synths, just another way to spread the sounds around and give your mix balance. When I need to EQ any sound, I can go into BEATMAKER 3, use their 6-band EQ. I can take the gain and push it all the way up and then use the cutoff to sweep around the whole spectrum to find exactly where I want that EQ to land. Take the reso, spread it out to see exactly how much of that frequency you need, and then bring the gain back down so that it's not overpowering everything else. And then when I mix my sounds, I'm always looking for balance, making sure that I can hear my drums hitting hard, my bass is right there, right above my drums, and then everything is spread out around that whole sphere that I'm talking about, making sure no one sound is too loud.
The business.
5 minutes of mobile music making mixing tips, part 1, using BEATMAKER 3. I got so many more of these coming up. Stay tuned. I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Hit 'em out!